everyone, this is Annie Ginter. I am the Social Media and Marketing Director for Small & Associates Real Estate, and I'm here with Kiernan Ziletti, and we wanted to go over a little bit of the history of West Franklin Street here in Richmond, Virginia. So come along with us as we take just a little brief tour and hear from Kiernan about all that is West Franklin Street. We are here at Monroe Park here on West Franklin Street and just wanted to ask you a couple questions. So, Kiernan, why don't you tell me a little bit about when West Franklin Street was designed?
So, West Franklin Street was actually named after Ben Franklin. During the 1850s, the street only extended to Monroe Park. At that time, it was the city fairgrounds. So they were only really occupied for a few months of the year. During the summer months for the fair, and then outside of that it actually was just an empty field. The street was extended right after the Civil War. There was the electric trolley system in Richmond. It actually had just been switched to electric after the Civil War, and they extended the street out to Laurel Street. That is right past VCU's campus. VCU was not here at that time, but the Richmond College was. And the college ended up moving out to the West End and is now called U of R. But at that time it was Richmond College, so the streetcars extended out. And West Franklin Street was kind of like the premier street to live on. It was in the country at that time, so there was not really any development around there, and those big open lots, and the fairground was nearby. So it was really the kind of the place to be if you were a wealthy businessman in Richmond.
So why don't you tell me a little bit about what Richmond was like during the 19th century?
Yeah, so right after the Civil War, post-Reconstruction, Richmond had gone through a lot of changes. The city was burned by troops moving in, and so the city completely had to be rebuilt. Right after that, the city really tried to modernize, so they moved away from like tobacco and agriculture and more into manufacturing industry, that kind of thing. So like I said before, the streetcars all switched to electric. It was the first electric streetcar system in America. So not only that, the city was growing westward, so West Franklin again extended further and actually went all the way out to Stewart Circle. And at that point they were adding in electricity to the houses, they were adding water, they were adding sidewalks. The whole city was really trying to modernize, and it was creeping westward as that happened. So those blocks, around like 800, 900 block of West Franklin, kind of became like the place to be. You would have all their modern convenience of being able to jump on the streetcar and go downtown. You had running water in your house, which is crazy to think about now, but you know, that was a big deal back then. So the city was really trying to move forward and kind of forget about its past and become a modern city.
And we are back in another part of West Franklin Street. And Kiernan, why don't you tell me a little bit about why West Franklin is such an important part of Richmond?
Yeah, so we are in the 900 block of West Franklin. This became, the 800 and 900 block became kind of the premier blocks of the street. During the 1880s, 1890s, the city was becoming kind of the hot place to be in terms of manufacturing, business, industry. It was growing and becoming a modern city. So right behind me here was Louis Ginter's house. He was the first person to build one of the big mansions on the street. So he hired Harvey Page, who was a Washington, D.C. architect, and he was very prominent up there. He built the Army and Navy Club. And so he brought Harvey Page down here. They designed this house in the Richardsonian Romanesque style. That was a hugely popular style. It was I don't know how to describe it, but it was the hot style of the time during that. So he was bringing in a nationally known architect building this house, and so other wealthy businessmen in Richmond kind of caught wind of that, saw how popular it was, and they wanted to fit in as well. So they also started building large mansions. And it actually, in the 1890s, in the newspaper, they started calling West Avenue the Fifth Avenue of Richmond. So Richmond was trying to be like New York, trying to show off their money, trying to build these big mansions. So if you want to take a look around, we can show you some examples of those.
Here we go. Are back here at your listing at 1209 West Franklin Street. And when we were out in the city, down in the 900 block, you mentioned an architect, Harvey Page.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell me a little bit more about him or other architects that you would like to speak about?
Yeah, so like I said, Louis Ginter brought in Harvey Page from Washington, D.C. It kind of set off this trend of all the wealthy businessmen in Richmond bringing in architects to the city. A really notable one was Karl Röhrmund. He was a German-born architect and actually practiced in Germany before coming here to America. Came to Richmond and designed a few houses in the 800-900 block of West Franklin. He also did the Shenandoah apartment building on Lee Circle. That building actually is getting turned into a boutique hotel now. So it's kind of brought back to life, which is neat.
Yeah.
He also did 120 South Boulevard. So he did residential buildings kind of all over the city. But he really got his prominence and kind of brought to Richmond due to the houses on West Franklin. So another architect was Marion Dimmick. He was a local architect, had his own firm here. His first residence was the 800 West Franklin house. That house was known to have incredible architectural detail and materials, so he was very particular about the materials that he used. He imported granite from Petersburg to build the house. So he kind of got the reputation of like, if you want to design a very nice house and money is no object, then you need to call him. In his career, he ended up doing over 100 buildings in the Richmond area, and actually all throughout the country. He was the mentor for Duncan Lee, so I know a lot of Richmonders know who Duncan Lee is. He was famous, did a lot of houses on Monument Avenue. Marion actually was his mentor. So he was the uncle of Carl Linder, another famous Richmond architect. Here at 1209 West Franklin, the architect was Marcellus Wright. He was famous because he designed the John Marshall Hotel, and actually right at his death, he was the one that drew up the terminal in Richmond Airport.
Wow.
So he helped design the airport, and it was actually finished after he had passed away, but he was the designer for that. So yeah, I mean, West Franklin became kind of the playground for architects to show off, and you fortunately had businessmen with more money than they could do anything with, so they would build these beautiful mansions along West Franklin. So it really made the street kind of an architectural gem of the city.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, when we were walking around down there, it's just beautiful homes galore. So, and this is no exception. Your listing here at 1209 is really beautiful. So lots of very interesting details to the house. So
yeah, so 1209 has there's only been 5 owners of the house. So the house, has not really been changed from its original design. The original bookcases, the stairwell, the front entrance, everything is still original in the house. So it really does kind of show off its time period. But in 2010, the whole house was renovated. So kitchen, bathrooms, all that was updated. So it's a great house. Definitely come check it out.
Yeah. And you can't miss, of course, the rooftop deck, which has
Yes.
gorgeous views of the city, just a panoramic of West Franklin
you get
and
to
the skyline.
check out all the areas that we just talked about. So you
Exactly.
can see, you can see all the way down to the Dominion building. The church is 2 doors down, so you can hear the bells go off, and it's really pretty.
Yeah, it's a great feature of the house for sure. So anyway, well, thank you for, taking us on a little tour of West Franklin Street. It's definitely a gem of Richmond, Virginia here. So You know, if you have any questions for Kiernan about this beautiful house on West Franklin Street or any other, you know, parts of Richmond, just let us know. So thanks
Thank you.
again.